Aloha, I am Sable Bisson from Wine Electric on Maui, and welcome to our conversation on emergency preparedness. This is the second episode of a three-part series in which we're discussing how our community can be better prepared for an emergency in our community. This episode, we're featuring our Maui County partners who are experts in the field of emergency management. Before we start the conversation, I do want to point out a very handy resource that we have. It's our handbook for emergency preparedness. And we also have a condensed version of quick tips that are both available on our website at hawaiianelectric.com/prepare. So be sure to check that out. And all of those are available for the public free of charge. As you may know, hurricane season runs every year through from June 1st through November 30th. And being prepared ahead of time is always a great idea. So we did invite some partners from our Maui County to help explain what their agencies do and how our community can be better prepared for these emergencies. With that, I want to welcome first Mr. Herman Andaya. He's the administrator for the Maui Emergency Management Agency. Aloha, Herman.
Aloha, and thank you very much for having us here today.
We also have Chief Tivoli Pa'umu of the Maui Police Department. Aloha, Chief.
Aloha and good afternoon. Thank you for having us.
And finally, we have Deputy Chief Brad Ventura from the Fire and Public Safety Department here on Maui County.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
So, mahalo to all of you gentlemen. Thank you for giving your time and agreeing to share your expertise with us. We just want to give you each a brief minute to talk about your agencies and what your role is in the emergency response for our community, and then any main messages that you want to leave with the public and our viewers today. And then after that, we'll circle back and toss a couple questions to each of you just to delve in a little deeper and get to know your agencies a little better. So with that, I'm going to pass the time over to Mr. Andaya from the Maui Emergency Management Agency.
The Maui Emergency Management Agency's mission is to protect all persons within the County of Maui to achieve whole community resiliency. We do this by utilizing emergency management principles, which includes planning, preparing, and coordinating emergency management operations in addressing disaster situations and coordinating post-disaster recovery operations. During an emergency incident, when the Emergency Operations Center, or we call it the EOC, is activated, MEMA's role becomes a coordinating agency for emergency services and response organizations. The EOC is the nerve center of the incident, and we have partners from the county, state, federal, and non-government organizations, which include Hawaiian Electric. We meet at the EOC, located at the county building, and we utilize FEMA's Prescribed Incident Command System, otherwise known as ICS, in coordinating our efforts for this incident. With respect to what you can do to prepare for an emergency, first of all, be informed. Know if your home is an flood inundation zone, flood zone, or susceptible to high winds and other hazards. Sign up for local notification alert through the County of Maui's emergency system, otherwise known as Maka'ala. Second thing you can do is make a plan. Talk with family members and develop a clear understanding of what you will do during hurricane or tropical storms. Prepare an action plan that includes details such as whether your family intends to shelter in place or go to a friend or relative's house. The third thing is build a kit. Build an emergency kit containing up to 14 days of food, water, medicine, and other personal hygienes, including masks and hand sanitizers. For more information about being prepared for emergencies, you can go to www.mauicounty.gov/emergency, or also sign up for Maka'ala emergency alerts. You can also go to the same website.
Mahalo, Herman. That's wonderful information. And, we are always great partners. We always have someone in the EOC when it is stood up. So we do work closely with you. So that's been a wonderful partnership, I think. So thank you so much. I'm going to pass it over to Chief Faumu of the Maui Police Department.
Good afternoon. And again, I will echo what we said. Thank you for having us in this, I think, programs such as this will help educate our public as far as preparing themselves for hurricane. So what is the role of the Maui Police Department? So during an emergency event, the Maui Police Department's goal is to provide safety for our residents and visitors alike. As you know, we do have a lot of our visitors that Maui is the most beautiful island to visit. So this include closing the roads and areas that can be hazardous. And like sometimes if we have high winds, we do have down power lines. So during a major disaster, our recommendation to you as a citizen is to dial 911 only if you need an assistant, an immediate assistant or an urgent assistant for help. If you're looking for information, as we do have information, please check with the local news, such as the local TV, the radio station, and at times the Maui Police Department put out public safety announcement in our local radio. And of course, there are lots of information in our social medias. Try not to believe everything you see posted on the social media. Make sure you have the right information for that. The other things that we recommend is to prepare your family. Make sure you have a 7 day supply. Make sure you have everything. All your important documentations are in place. Your families are being notified. Everybody stays in contact. Of course, right now during the COVID-19, most of the time all the families will get together so they can support each other. But during this time, if we have another hurricane, exercise social distancing. Absolutely. Stay off the road unless you need to. Leave the roads open for our emergency vehicles, such as the fire department, ambulance, to include our utilities. You know, as I mentioned to you before, there are hazards that occur during a hurricane, such as power down lines. So you need to have these first responders respond and take care of that. And again, if you come across any intersection where the traffic signal is out, think of a four-way stop signs. Exercise that so that way everybody can pass through safely. For emergency prepare information, sign up to receive our road closure from the Maui Police Department. We do send this notification out, and also we visit our website, www.mauicounty.com/police department. Thank you.
Mahalo, Chief. Great information, and thank you for pinpointing the down power lines. That's always a concern of ours as well, and we work very closely with the police department to ensure public safety in those instances. So finally, I want to go to Deputy Chief Ventura from the Fire and Public Safety Department.
Aloha, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for having us today. Happy that we can spend a few moments to share some of our perspective on the hurricane season. As most of you know, the Department of Fire and Public Safety's mission, also includes those of our beachgoers. The Ocean Safety Department falls under our department as well, and a lot of times are forgotten. But during a hurricane event, part of the messaging and safety of the public does fall into their hand. Notifying people of if parks and beaches are going to be closed, along with everything else that goes in hand. Our department is mostly concerned with response when it comes to hurricane incidents and how we can help the public get out of whatever situation has been created by the hurricane. But in the event that we're not able to get to your location quickly, there's a good chance the public will be surrounded by, many wind or water, rain type situations around their homes. So when we talk about down power lines, our recommendation is to stay, at least 30 feet away. Even though you can't see that the power is on, you should stay away until an electric official comes on scene to notify everybody that the power is off. If for some reason a down power line or a pole falls while you're driving and comes into contact with your vehicle, if you're not being affected at that point, the best thing to do is to stay in your vehicle. If there becomes a time that it becomes an emergency and you need to get out of your vehicle for fire or flood or any type of other emergency that may occur, the best way to do is to leave the vehicle and basically go into a hopping motion so that you are grounding yourself regularly, and then hop till you're about 20 or 30 feet away, and then you can walk out. But you would only do that after, a more dire emergency were to start. If a vehicle is not being impacted by the pole or by the, no sparking or arcing going on and you're safe, just stay in the vehicle until fire and electric personnel can come on scene. Electric would de-energize, and then the fire department could help with extrication of that person. In preparation, I'm going to echo some of the same sentiments from my other partners here in emergency management and police. A lot of it is important preparation. The success of our community is going to be based on the preparation done before the event hits. We all talk about the 14 days of supplies, but also just around your home. Wind can send things flying, can take roofs off, can flip sheds over, knock trees down. So before a storm comes, it'd be great to prepare your area around your home, especially if that's where you'll be sheltering during a storm, is to make sure the debris around your house is cleaned up, your gutters are clear so that the water can flow off properly, the trees are trimmed. If they have trees that are impinging on power lines, the best thing would be to seek a professional's help, because we don't want homeowners coming into contact or near the vicinity of power lines while trimming trees. So if you have power lines on your property that are in the vicinity of power lines, then I would seek a professional to help you with the tree trimming prior to storm arrival. Um, Besides that, we just want to make sure that people also know we have a Facebook page. We do send out some messaging on that site. We echo most of what is being sent out by Maui Emergency Management, the police department, the weather service. So we're kind of not too much additional information, but a lot of similar information that people can get on a different place. So that kind of sums it up for us in our preparation for hurricane season.
Mahalo, Brad. Thank you for that wonderful information. And on behalf of Hawaiian Electric, also want to echo all of the messages that you three just shared. And want to also take this opportunity to kind of go over the restoration process for the electric utility for Hawaiian Electric. It is a 6-step process, and we'll be throwing up a graphic here to kind of help the viewers follow along. First and foremost is always going to be safety. We want to make sure that our employees and the public are both safe before we even begin repairs. And so whether that's weather or, down lines, whatever the case may be, we want to first make sure safety is always top of mind. And then next, we're going to send out damage assessment tools. And a lot of times we work very closely with the county, the Public Works Department, and the Highways Division. If there are fallen trees or debris, they oftentimes assist us with clearing that so that our trucks and our employees can make it through safely. And then at that point is when we start to repair our major transmission lines, which are the higher voltage lines. And that's what gets electricity from our power plants to the different areas. And so those are going to be the next step in the restoration process. Following that, we go into the different neighborhood circuits, and then those are our distribution lines, so slightly lower voltage, and those lines get repaired next. And then we'll go to the individual homes. So if you see your neighbors have their power back, but your home is not, it could be your service line, and so that's when our folks come to your home to make sure that the line feeding your home is repaired as well. And then at that point, we can fully restore the whole circuit and slowly bring folks back on as it is deemed safe to do so. So that's the restoration process in a nutshell. A lot of times people ask us why we're not in there area. So just know that we are somewhere, making sure that something's getting repaired when it's safe to do so. But if you do have an outage, we always welcome you to report it. We have a Maui trouble line. The number is 871-7777. And our Molokai and Lanai residents can call our toll-free number, which is 1-877-871-8461. So those lines are open 24/7 to report an outage, or even if you see a down power line or whatnot, those lines are always open to report those things. So a lot of things to remember, a lot of information, but I'm gonna start with a couple of questions and I'll toss this first one to Herman at MEMA. And you folks had a lot of practice probably with the current Hurricane Douglas, but what kind of steps does your agency take to better prepare our island for a hurricane or for a major storm?
Our county's ability to recover from a hurricane will depend heavily on the preparedness of our public. We continue to amplify messaging to the public through various forms of media, stressing the importance of being prepared for emergencies. So to find out more information about emergency preparedness, please visit our website at mauicounty.gov/emergency. You can also find information on our Facebook page as well. In regards to our agency and our partners, we continue to train and plan, and we do this to ensure our operational readiness. This includes taking part in workshops, trainings, and exercises, and it also includes topics such as EOC operations, debris management, and hurricane response in a COVID environment. We also anticipate resources, supplies, and equipment that may be needed. In addition, our partners have been working on mitigation projects such as making certain that our drainage ways and culverts are clear from debris. As you know, this past weekend we had Hurricane Douglas, and today our partners are meeting and talking about what things went well and what things didn't, and how is it that we can improve. And we go through this process called a hot wash, and eventually we create what's called the after action plan, or after action report. And we do this so that we can improve our process here at the EOC. So just like your household, we want to be prepared here at MEMA, and we have plans, and we have our own version of an emergency kit. And we maintain situational awareness by knowing what is occurring in our communities.
Thank you, Herman. That's good information, I think, for our viewers to be aware of. This next question is for Chief Paumu. During an emergency, such as an approaching hurricane, what role does the Maui Police Department play as a first responder?
Thank you. These are good questions. As the emergency manager had mentioned to you earlier, that they stood up the EOC, or the Emergency Operations Center. So we are part of the Emergency Operations Center. So we work very closely with that, and to make sure that whatever they need, or any assistance they need, then we will support them in that role, such as the outside islands, the island of Lanai, Molokai, and of course the eastern side of Maui. The Maui Police Department become the emergency operations center representing those islands. So first and foremost is to make sure that these centers are ready to go. The second is to look at our 911 center to make sure that the 911 center, we have redundancy. Our radio operators operation is in place and is working. The second is our manpower, to make sure that we have everybody. As you all know, Maui County is a tri-isles. All personnel are ordered to stay put wherever their district is. If you happen to be on the island of Maui and you're assigned to the island of Molokai, you will be ordered to report to the closest police station where you are. And then we send out our messaging to the public, to inform the public, to make sure that they are safe in their place, make sure that they have flashlights and batteries. We also talk about what you mentioned, electrical, the safety. And also sometimes people overload their outlets with extension cords and everything, trying to help out the neighbors and everything like that. And the most important thing is that your house number is visible for the emergency responders when we respond to your home. So it is very important. We make sure all our backup generators and all our vehicles are operational. What we are looking at is at least 95% and above operational for all our vehicles. And the first thing that we do and the most important thing that we do is to make sure that our employees who will be called upon to report for duty take care of their family at home. And that's it. That's it for the Maui Police Department, and that's how we prepare ourselves for a hurricane. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I want to actually piggyback on that because, as you mentioned, we are a tri-isle county, and so we do have to be mindful of three islands instead of just one. And so maybe I'm actually going to toss this to Brad or even Herman if you folks want to chime in on this as well. Chief mentioned that they prepare on all three islands, and maybe how do your entities ensure the safety of all three islands as well, or how do you prepare and make sure that we have the right resources where they need to be because we are separated by water. Anyone want to take a stab at that?
I'll speak after Herman.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Chief. For MEMA, we've established what we call incident command posts, ICPs, on Molokai, Lanai, and Hana, and we communicate with them frequently, regularly. We find out what kind of needs they may have. We want to make sure that we have communications with them, and so we provide them various communication type of tools so that we can ensure that we can always be in touch with them. In those areas, they tend to be pretty resilient, but nonetheless, we want to make sure that they're taken care of. I know during Hurricane Douglas, it was Hana and Molokai, which came pretty close to the hurricane. So we were especially concerned about those areas, but we did speak with them and made sure that they were okay. I know that especially in Kalapapa on Molokai, we came close to evacuating that area because the storm was coming very close to them. But in the end, we didn't have to do that. So, but yeah, we do keep in touch with them.
So from the perspective of the Department of Fire and Public Safety, event, our department does similar things. We upstaff and we call back additional personnel, and we try to upstaff, especially in the remote areas, because like we were mentioning, we're a tri-isle. Plus, Hana is almost its own island. It's very isolated. We try to upstaff in all of those locations. In the event that a major emergency happens, we have the manpower, the tools to take care of the people. That starts, though, as Chief Faumu said, with our families being prepared for our responders to leave their home. It is important that our responders who come to work discuss this with their family, prepare their family to be alone. And sometimes you don't just think of it as a day, think of it as 3 or 4 days you might have to be working before you return home. So your family needs to be set. They have to have their own plan in place and communications, power needs, food, water, medication, all of that before you even head off to work. Because there's a good chance if an incident does happen large enough that our responders will not be headed home immediately to be with their families. So we do pre-stage everything before the storm hits. A lot of times when it's a hurricane, we're watching the pace of the hurricane and the speed over ground to see how fast it's moving, and then that determines when we actually get people into the stations. Sometimes hurricanes can change pace, and so that makes it a little complex. But where we're constantly and diligently watching the hurricane days before its approach to the state. And then secondly, we stand up our incident management team within our department. What that does is it gives everybody within the department a very common operating picture should communications go down completely. Everybody will know who's working with them in their division or group, what our communication plan is, what our secondary communication plan is, should our radio system go down. Um, and all of that is done prior to landfall so that we can communicate clearly before we're affected by a hurricane. So those are some of the things that we work to do pre-event. And then, of course, we'll work with our partners both in police and ambulance, public works, private heavy equipment companies to know where their resources are on the island so that, we have a big fire truck that needs to drive down the road. If the roads are completely covered with trees, we need to work with those partners to clear roads so that we can actually respond to the public and help people. So we take all that into consideration, before a hurricane reaches our state.
Thank you for that insight, all of you. We're similar in that respect where we have folks that track these storms prior to landfall as well. And so we're staging resources where we think they're best or most needed also. So I think it's very helpful, especially in the EOC, to know what all the different partners are doing and where the resources are across our island. So thank you so much. Brad, this next one's for you. You kind of touched on, preparing your families in your home, making sure that you're ready should you need to leave them. What are some ways that people can prepare their home in advance? I think you kind of mentioned, debris and whatnot earlier. If maybe anything else in particular that you wanna add to that?
Yeah, if I'm going to expand on that, basically, what people can do prior to landfall, I would add, is that they, if their home is going to be their shelter, then everything should be in place there before. If their home is going to not be their shelter and they're going to have to go to a shelter, then they should be mobile early so that they can get to a designated shelter, or even better, a family's house where they can stay and ride out the storm. If that is their plan, then it should be, talked about, discussed, readied, and then executed prior to any hazards occurring with the storm. With COVID-19, the best place for you to be is probably your home. The second place to be would be maybe family's home, and then if you really have to get to a shelter, that would be your third option as far as social distancing and staying safe with COVID. But we talked about the debris removal. Chief Tebow talked about having a kit with the flashlights and batteries, and having your house well marked. So those are really things that people of the community can do prior to landfall.
Thank you. This next one's for, and thank you for touching on the pandemic. Obviously, it's a very big part of our lives at this moment. And I assume it's maybe changed the way that we operate, especially for the EOC. I know that we're used to everyone gathering in a room. Herman, this is for you. How has the pandemic kind of changed the way that we operate? Or are there other ways that, we've had to kind of be more savvy about just because of this current situation?
So with COVID-19, it has proven to be a challenge, especially here in the EOC. So for those of you, just to explain, the EOC is about 1,000 or so. And we have roughly about 60 to 80 partners that come in here. And so it's a very small room for a large group of people. So we did try to have groups separated into like our branches, for instance, separated into different conference rooms and whatnot. But it really proved to be very challenging. And so in the end, most of us ended up being in this small little room. And so what we ended up doing was requiring everybody to wear a mask. We had everyone wipe their tables numerous times during the day. We tried to do as much social distancing as possible in the room whenever we could. And so, those are just some of the things that we did during this EOC. And COVID-19 really changed our process as a result. We also found it challenging within our shelters as well. And pursuant to CDC guidelines, which requires increased physical distancing in our shelters, this decreased our overall shelter capacity. In addition, many of the shelter volunteers from the American Red Cross are in the at-risk category. Many of them are elderly, or many of them may have underlying conditions, and so they weren't able to be volunteers. And as a result, there was a shortage of shelter volunteers as well. Despite these challenges, we were able to continue to work with our partners in finding sheltering options and ensure the safety of our public from both hurricanes and COVID. During Hurricane Douglas, we were able to open 7 shelters on Maui, Molokai, and Lanai, and we were ready to open more if we had to. The National Guard were on hand to provide temperature checks to all occupants in the shelter. We also had on hand Department of Health, who were there to provide assistance should there be a case of COVID. And also on top of that, we did have protocols in place in the event that there was someone with COVID or is suspected of having COVID-19 in the shelters. So we had areas in the shelters that we designated where they would be separated from the general population of the shelter. So we did our best to try to mitigate the harms of COVID-19 in both the EOC as well as in our shelters.
Thank you, Herman, for the insight. Yeah, I can imagine it poses some challenges during this time. This next question is for Chief Paumu. After a storm or a hurricane, what would you recommend people do or not do? I mean, are there any specific messages that you try to get to the public in terms of what is safe and what's not safe to do?
Yes, that is another good question, and I'm glad you put everything together to educate our public. The most important thing after a storm, what should you do, is accountability. Make sure that all members of your family are accounted for. If you have pets, make sure they are in place. And then you do what we refer to is damage assessment. Look around your home. Make sure that if there is any damage, look for any electrical wires. Consider everything hot. Don't touch anything, but take note of it. You know, one of the recommendations that the insurance company usually recommend is take pictures of the before and after. Take pictures of everything, because at the end of the day, you are gonna reach out to either your homeowner's insurance or other form of resources to get support for you, some kind of financial support for that. So you make sure you take pictures of that and account for your family. The other thing that we recommend too now from the public safety side, as I mentioned to you, during a hurricane, stay off the road. During this time, you really want to drive around and check out your neighborhood. Don't do that. You know, sometimes the road, you have wiring on the road, you have debris on the road. Just stay put where you are unless it's absolutely necessary for you to get on the road. Then do that, and then stay tuned to what is going on. Maui Emergency Management Agency always put out update. So as the Maui Police Department and the Fire Department, we put out updates. Check your social media. Again, be mindful of what is put out on your social media, and stay tuned to the local radio or TV. As I recommended, you should have portable radio so you can listen to what is going on. The first thing is make sure your family is accounted for. If there is any emergency, injury or anything, call 911 and ask for help. We'll make sure we'll send help to help your family. And other than that, help will be on the way. And as we try to recoup, I think if I can back off a little bit, during the storm, the Maui Police Department has to report into MEMA, or the Maui Emergency Management Agency, on an hourly basis, what is the damage report out on the field. So that way, MEMA has an idea of what's going on, and also if there is any downline or anything, we'll notify your office about that. So stay tuned to what is going on and be patient. Help will be on the way if you really need it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief. This is our last question, and this is for Brad. Are there any specific things that Maui County residents should consider while making their family plans? I know we kind of mentioned making sure there's a plan. Anything specific that you think folks should be mindful of?
I think it sounds very, very elementary, but I think one of the biggest things is to actually make a plan. Honestly, I think a lot of people say they have a plan or they have parts of a plan or they've discussed parts of the plan, but they haven't actually set up a plan, which includes all members of the plan. Everybody's household's a little different. Some are a family of two, some are a family of 15. So if everybody doesn't know the plan, there's a good chance the plan will be unsuccessful. So it's important to not wait till the emergency is happening. We all have seen the long lines at the pharmacies, the long lines at the grocery stores, within 24 hours of a hurricane or a tropical storm affecting our island. So the key with making a plan is to actually make it early and review it often. Part of the review is actually practicing it. In the fire world, when we talk about having a fire safety plan and an emergency exit from a fire at night, we always talk about kids will just climb out of their windows and get out of the house. But if you have actually asked a 3-year-old to climb up and open a window, if they haven't practiced it, they're not going to be able to do it at 2 o'clock in the morning when an incident actually happens. So practicing the plan before the hurricane comes, knowing what everybody's going to do is going to make that plan more successful. Additionally, there's a good chance if we get affected by a major hurricane, communications will be completely down. So you can't expect to call people to create a meeting location at that point. That all has to be predetermined before the incident happens. And don't wait. Get to your shelters early, whether it be, like I said, a family home or a designated county shelter. Get your family there early so that way you have the accountability that Chief Fa'amu was talking about. Once you have your whole family together and you have accountability for all your family members and pets, then you can ride out the storm. You'll be together and they'll be much less stressful at the end of the incident.
Thank you, Brad. On that note, I want to wrap it up, but if there are any other, final messages that you folks want to, feel free. If not, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you to all three of you gentlemen for participating and for sharing this very important information, I think, and hopefully folks take advantage of it. And also the websites that you folks have also mentioned during your time. So lots of great information out there. Like you said, be mindful of what you're reading and make sure that it's accurate information. So also want to thank the viewers and anyone watching. Please make sure to share this on your social media channels if you can. Be sure to check out hawaiianelectric.com/prepare for our free Hawaiian emergency preparedness booklet. Lots of great information there as well. And then be sure to catch our next episode, our final episode of this 3-part series, where we're visiting our Hawaii County and their key partners in emergency response. So don't want to miss it. Thanks for tuning in. And until then, take care.